The Harlequin tea set. Mr. Satterthwaite let out two sharp, clucking sounds of pure vexation. He was becoming increasingly convinced that old cars were far more reliable than new ones. One could only trust what stood the test of time. Old cars had their whims, certainly, but those whims were known, understood, and manageable. But these new machines, all those gadgets, the complicated little windows, the glittering dashboard, it looked magnificent, but it was utterly unintuitive. One's hand reached for a lever only to find nothing. The wipers and the headlights were never where you expected them to be. And if your shiny new marvel happened to falter, the mechanics all recited the same tiresome mantra. Just teething troubles, sir. Magnificent engine, the latest word in design, but she's just finding her teeth. Ha ha ha. As if a motor car were some sort of teething infant. Mr. Satterthwaite, a man of advanced years, held a different view. A car ought to be at least of legal age. It should be tried, tested, and cured of its infant maladies long before reaching the owner. He had been driving to the country to spend the weekend with friends. But they had barely cleared London when the new car began to act up. Now it sat in a garage awaiting a diagnosis, and Mr. Satterthwaite had no idea how long the ordeal would last. As his chauffeur conferred with the mechanic, Mr. Satterthwaite sat as still as he could, praying for patience. He had promised to arrive at Doverton-Kingsburn shortly after 3 o'clock. At the thought of his broken promise, he clucked again. Then, realizing how much he sounded like a hen proud of a fresh egg, he decided to turn his mind to something more pleasant. Yes, something pleasant. Something had caught his eye as they were driving through the village. Something that had given him a brief, warm glow of nostalgia. He hadn't been able to process it then, for the car had begun to splutter, making a search for a garage inevitable. What was it? It hadn't been on the left. It was on the right, near the post office. Yes, that was it. He remembered seeing the post office and thinking he ought to wire the Addisons about his delay. And right there, next door, or perhaps one house over, a flash of color had stirred a memory. But what was it? Bright colors, vivid patches, a word that resonated in his mind, sparking a feeling of something fine and vibrant, not just a memory of something he had seen, but something he had shared. But where? Everywhere, he answered himself. On a Mediterranean island, in Monte Carlo, standing by the croupier's wheel, in a grand country house. Everywhere he had been there with someone. That was the key. He was just beginning to grasp the thread of the thought when the chauffeur and the mechanic reappeared. "Won't be long now, sir," the chauffeur said brightly. 10 minutes at most." "A mere nothing," the mechanic added in a gravelly country voice. "Just the teething stage, as it were." This time, Mr. Satterthwaite did not cluck. He ground his teeth. Perhaps it was a habit he had only read about in books, but in his old age, he found it strangely satisfying, even if his upper plate was a bit looser than he liked. Teething, toothache, gnashing of teeth, dentures, everything, it seemed, revolved around teeth. "It's only a few miles to Doverton-Kingsburn," the chauffeur suggested. "I could fetch a car for you, sir, and bring yours along later." "No," said Mr. Satterthwaite. He spoke with such sudden authority that the two men stared at him in bewilderment. His eyes sparkled. His voice was firm. He remembered. "I shall walk. When you are finished, drive back the way we came. You will find me at a cafe, the Harlequin Cafe, I believe it is called." "Hardly the sort of place for you, sir," the mechanic stammered. "I shall be there," Mr. Satterthwaite announced in a tone that ended the discussion. He walked away briskly, leaving the two men puzzled. "Don't know what's come over him," the chauffeur muttered. "Never seen him like that." The village of Kingsburn Dean did not live up to its grand name. It was a single street, a handful of houses, and a few shops that looked as though they had been converted from living rooms and might close again at any moment. The buildings were unremarkable, neither very old nor very beautiful. Perhaps that was why the splash of color had been so striking. There was the post office, plain and functional, and right next to it, a sign hung over a doorway, the Harlequin Cafe. Suddenly, Mr. Satterthwaite felt a pang of doubt. Perhaps he was losing his mind. An old man's whim. Why should a single word cause such a stir in his soul? The mechanic had been right. It didn't look like much of an eatery. But as he stepped closer, he understood. The house was divided. One side held the tables and chairs of the cafe, but the other was a tiny shop selling china. Not antiques, just modern, everyday wear, but the window was a riot of color. It was a tea set, dazzling in its variety. Blue, red, yellow, green, violet. A true festival of color, Mr. Satterthwaite thought. No wonder it caught his eye. Beside the display sat a small hand-lettered card, the Harlequin tea set, the ghost of a memory. It was a word Harlequin that snagged in his mind, stirring memories buried so deep they refused to be easily unearthed. Vivid colors, a checkered costume, and then a wild, unsettling thought flickered through his mind. The absurd notion that this tea set had something to do with him, that it had been placed there specifically for his eyes. Had his old friend, Mr. Harley Quin, stopped here for a coffee or to buy a cup, perhaps asking for the set to be displayed in the window? How many years had it been? Many. Oh, far too many. The last time they had parted, Mr. Quin had simply turned and walked away down that country lane. They had nicknamed Lover's Lane. Back then, Mr. Satterthwaite had imagined they would meet at least once a year, or once every 2. Yet life had decided otherwise. Now, a marvelous, staggering idea took hold. What if here, in this tiny, inconsequential village, he was to encounter Mr. Harley Quin once more? Nonsense, Mr. Satterthwaite muttered to himself. Utter nonsense. You're just a doting old man. Yet he missed Mr. Quin. In all these years, no other soul had stirred his spirit or sharpened his wits quite like Harley Quin. The man had a knack for appearing out of nowhere, and whenever he did, something extraordinary followed. Not to Mr. Satterthwaite himself, exactly, but through him. Mr. Quin would provide the presence. Mr. Satterthwaite would provide the intuition. He would notice a detail, solve a riddle, or catch a hidden meaning, all while Mr. Quin sat across from him, smiling in quiet approval. Just one word from Quin, and the gears of Mr. Satterthwaite's mind would whirl into motion, making him feel useful, active, and young again. He was a man of many friends, of course, duchesses and even a bishop, people of great consequence. Social consequence. He corrected himself privately. He had always been a bit of a snob. He enjoyed the company of elite and the families who had graced royal guest lists for centuries. But he had other friends, too, the young, the heartbroken, the unlucky, those who truly needed his help. It was thanks to Mr. Quin that he had ever been able to be of use to them. And so he found himself standing like a fool on the threshold of a drab village shop that sold common china and saucepans. Regardless, he told himself, I must go in. It would be silly to trudge back to the garage without even looking, just in case. They'll be much longer than 10 minutes with that car anyway. I'll go in simply to see if there is anything of interest. He glanced at the tea set again. Surprisingly, the porcelain was high quality, excellent modern craft. He racked his memory. Ah, yes, the Duchess of Leith. What a remarkable old lady she had been. He remembered her kindness to her maid during a fierce storm on the way to Corsica. She had nursed the girl through seasickness like a gentle angel, only to regain her sharp, formidable temper the very next day. Maria. Yes, the Duchess's name was Maria. Dear old Maria Leith. She had passed away years ago, but she had owned a Harlequin morning tea set just like this one. Large, multicolored cups. One black, one yellow, one red, and one in a particularly unpleasant shade of brick red, which naturally had been the Duchess's favorite. Ah, he sighed, those were the days. But I suppose it's time to head inside. I'll have a cup of coffee. It will likely be more milk than bean and far too much sugar, but it will kill the time. Mr. Satterthwaite stepped inside. The cafe was nearly empty. The tea-time rush had not yet begun. In the far corner, a young couple sat in hushed conversation, and near the wall, 2 women were busy gossiping. And I told her, one was saying, I told her straight, this won't do. I won't stand for it. And I told Henry the same, and he agreed with me. Poor Henry, thought Mr. Satterthwaite. He knew the type. Henry likely agreed with everything just to keep the peace. The woman was thoroughly unpleasant, and her companion looked no better. Turning away, he addressed the shopkeeper. May I have a look at your wares? A pleasant-faced woman stood behind the counter. Of course, sir. We've just received some lovely new stock. Mr. Satterthwaite toyed with the multicolored cups, examined a milk jug, and admired a porcelain zebra. As he was inspecting some rather charming ashtrays, he heard the scrape of chairs. The two gossiping women had paid their bill and were heading for the door. Passing them in the entrance was a tall man in a dark suit. The stranger sat down at the table the women had just vacated, his back to Mr. Satterthwaite. From behind, he looked lean and powerful, broad-shouldered and muscular. Yet, perhaps because of the dim lighting, there was something somber about him, something almost ominous. Mr. Satterthwaite turned back to the ashtrays. I should buy one, just so the proprietress isn't disappointed, he decided. As he was paying, the sun suddenly broke through the clouds. Mr. Satterthwaite hadn't realized how gloomy the cafe had been until that moment. The sky had been heavy with gray ever since they had started looking for a mechanic. But now, sunlight poured through a window that looked like old Victorian stained glass. The rays danced across the colorful vases and shimmering cups, cutting through the shadows of the room. The light reached the new customer. It splashed across his dark, somber back in vivid patches of blue, red, and yellow. In that instant, Mr. Satterthwaite knew. His intuition had not played him false. He knew exactly who had walked in and sat by the wall. He was so certain that he didn't even wait for the man to turn around. Forgetting his purchase, he walked into the cafe area, rounded the table, and sat down directly opposite him. The meeting at the Harlequin. Good afternoon, Mr. Quin, said Mr. Satterthwaite. Somehow, I knew I should see you today. Mr. Quin smiled, a slow, knowing expression. You always know everything, he replied. It has been such a long time, Satterthwaite sighed. Does time truly matter? Perhaps not. Perhaps you are right. But then again, perhaps not. Mr. Satterthwaite looked around the humble room. Can one actually eat here? It seems you came for that very purpose. No one knows for certain why anyone does anything, do they? Mr. Quin remarked cryptically. I am truly glad to see you, Satterthwaite continued, his voice softening. I'd almost forgotten. Well, not you, but the way you speak. The way you manage to make me think and act. I make you act? No, you are being unfair to yourself. You've always known exactly what to do and why. But without you, I know none of it. Oh, no, Mr. Quin demurred. I have nothing to do with it. I am merely, as I have said many times, a passing traveler. Nothing more. And today, you just happen to be passing through the specific village? And are you not? Surely you were headed somewhere else entirely. Or am I mistaken? Mr. Satterthwaite nodded. I am on my way to visit an old friend, a man I haven't seen in years. He has aged. He's nearly an invalid now after a stroke. He's recovered somewhat, but one never knows. Does he live alone? No, not anymore, I'm happy to say. His family has returned from abroad. What is left of them, at least, they've been living together for several months now. I'm looking forward to seeing them all, those I knew before and those I've yet to meet. The children? Mr. Quin asked. Children and grandchildren. Mr. Satterthwaite felt a fleeting pang of sadness at his own solitude, though it was a regret he rarely dwelt upon. They brew excellent Turkish coffee here, Mr. Quin noted, changing the subject. Very good indeed. The rest, as you've likely guessed, is barely edible. Nevertheless, a sip of coffee never hurts. Let us have a cup before you continue your journey into the past. At that moment, a small black dog appeared in the doorway. It trotted over and sat by the table, gazing up at Mr. Quin. Is he yours? asked Satterthwaite. Yes. Allow me to introduce him. Hermes. Mr. Quin patted the dog's head. Coffee, Hermes. Go ask Ollie. The dog rose and vanished into the back of the shop. A sharp, rhythmic bark echoed from the kitchen. Moments later, a dark-skinned young man in a vibrant green pullover emerged. Coffee, Ollie, Mr. Quin said. 2 cups. Turkish coffee, sir. Right away. Ollie smiled and disappeared. Tell me, Satterthwaite urged, where have you been? What have you been doing to stay away so long? As I said, time means little to me. I remember our last meeting quite clearly, as I trust you do. A tragic business, Satterthwaite muttered. I don't like to dwell on it. You call death a tragedy? Death is not always a tragedy, my friend. We have discussed this before. True, Satterthwaite conceded. Perhaps that death was not. And yet, the most important thing in life is life itself, Mr. Quin said firmly. You are right, of course. One wants a person who is young and happy, or who could be happy, to live. We all want that, and therefore, if required, we are duty-bound to save a life. And will you require something of the sort from me? How could I require anything of you? A bright, warm smile lit up Harley Quin's long, melancholy face. I would never demand anything, Mr. Satterthwaite. You see everything yourself. You know what must be done, and you do it. I am irrelevant. Oh, you are very relevant indeed, Satterthwaite insisted. But tell me of your travels. A little of everywhere. Different countries, different latitudes, different stories. But nearly everywhere I was just a passerby. It would be far better if you did the talking. Tell me of these friends you are going to see. Who are they? I shall, with pleasure. Satterthwaite took a sip of the coffee Ollie had brought in small, ornate Eastern cups. It was perfect, sweet as love, black as night, and hot as hellfire. I believe an Arabic poet said that. Mr. Quin nodded. Yes, Satterthwaite continued. I'll tell you where I'm going, though my errands are usually quite trivial. My old friend is Tom Addison. We were great companions in our youth, but life drifted us apart. Tom joined the diplomatic service and rose quite high. His first posting was Spain, where he married a beautiful girl named Pilar. He adored her. Did they have children? 2 daughters. One was fair like her father, Lily, and the other took after her mother. They called her Maria. I was Lily's godfather. We didn't see each other often, perhaps twice a year, when I'd take her to lunch or visit her at school. She was a lovely girl, very devoted to her father, but life wasn't always smooth. During the war, Lily married a pilot, a fighter pilot. I only remembered his name 2 days ago, Simon Gilliatt, Squadron Leader Gilliatt. The threads of the past. Did he fall in the war? Mr. Quin asked. No. He survived. After the war, he left the service and took Lily to Kenya, as so many did then. They settled in well and were very happy. They had a son, Roland. He went to school here in England, and I saw him once or twice. The last time when he was perhaps 12, a fine boy, red-headed, like his father. We haven't met in years, and I'm quite eager to see him again. He must be 23 or 24 now. How time flies. Is he married? Not yet. I see. But perhaps he intend to be? Well, Satterthwaite hesitated. I know a little of that from letters. Tom mentioned that Roland has a girl. His cousin, actually. You see, Maria, Addison's younger daughter, married a local doctor. We were never close, I'm afraid. It was quite tragic. She died in childbirth. The girl was named Inez, a family name chosen by her Spanish grandmother. I only met Inez recently, now that she's grown. She's dark, very much like her Spanish kin. But I fear I'm boring you. Not at all. Please continue. It is all very curious. Curious? Why? Satterthwaite shot a suspicious glance at Mr. Quin. You want every detail of this family. To what end? Perhaps only so I may picture them more clearly. Very well. The estate is called Doverton-Kingsburn, a beautiful old house, though not the sort that invites tourists or functions as a museum. It's simply a quiet English home where a man who has served his country can retire in peace. Tom always loved the country life. He was a keen fisherman and a crack shot. We spent many happy days there in our youth. Those memories have stayed with me my whole life. There isn't another house like Doverton-Kingsburn, nor a place to which I am more attached. Whenever I was nearby, I'd make a detour just to see the glint of the river through the trees or the long drive leading to the house. Tom was always a man of action. And I remain a confirmed old bachelor. You are more than that, Mr. Quin said softly. You are a man who knows how to find friends, how to cherish them, and how to remain loyal. I wish I could agree. You are too kind. Not at all. Besides, you are an excellent storyteller. You've seen much. You could write a book, Mr. Quin suggested. I'd make you the hero. No, Mr. Quin smiled. I am no hero, only a passerby. But tell me more. I want the full picture. Well, it's just a family chronicle. As I said, years would pass without a meeting, yet we remained friends. Until Pilar died. She was so young. We were close with her, Tom, and my goddaughter Lily. And I remember Inez, a quiet, steady girl who still lives with her father, the village doctor, and her age, 19 or 20, I believe. I should like to befriend her. So, it is essentially a happy story. Not entirely. Lily, the one who went to Kenya, was killed in a motor accident. Roland was less than a year old at the time. Simon was devastated. They were a perfect match. Eventually, thank God, his luck turned and he married again, the young widow of a fellow squadron leader. She had a child of her own, only a few months different in age from Roland. I've never met the second wife, as they stayed in Kenya, but it seems it was a successful marriage. The boys grew up together like brothers. They went to the same school here and spent holidays in Kenya. Then, of course, the troubles in Kenya began. Some stayed, some left for Australia, and others, like Simon Gilliatt, his wife, and the two boys, returned to England. Satterthwaite sighed. Things haven't always been easy for them, so they finally accepted Tom's standing invitation. Now they are all gathered there, Simon, his second wife, their two grown sons, and Inez Horton. It's a full house. Tom has invited me several times to see them all, and I've finally accepted. I'll spend the weekend there. It's sad to see Tom so frail. I don't think he is long, but he's as cheerful as ever. I just want to see that old house again. Doverton-Kingsburn. My entire youth is wrapped up in it. When a life has been as quiet as mine, memories are all one has left. But one thing worries me. On the surface, you have no cause for worry. What is it? I am afraid of disappointment. The house in my memory might be quite different from the reality. There might be new wings, new gardens, anything. It's been so very long. Regardless, your memories belong to you, said Mr. Quin. I am glad you're going. I've just had a thought. Satterthwaite exclaimed. Come with me. Come right now. They would be delighted. Tom Addison is the most hospitable man alive. My friends are his friends. Come, I insist. In his excitement, Mr. Satterthwaite waved his hand, nearly sweeping his coffee cup off the table. He caught it just in time. At that exact moment, an old bell jangled and the door swung open. A woman hurried in, breathless and flushed. She was middle-aged but still strikingly handsome, with golden hair touched by silver. Her skin had that delicate rose-pink hue common to those with blue eyes and reddish hair, and her figure was still quite fine. She cast a quick, frantic look around the cafe and turned toward the china shop, the parting clue. "Oh!" she exclaimed, her eyes lighting up. "The Harlequin set. You still have it?" "Yes, Mrs. Gilliatt," the shopkeeper replied. "A new shipment arrived only yesterday." "Oh, I'm so relieved. I was in such a state. I even borrowed my son's moped to get here quickly. My boys have vanished somewhere, but I had to do something. Several cups were smashed this morning, and we're expecting guests. I'll take a blue one, a green, and, yes, a red one as well. It's the trouble with these mismatched sets, isn't it? A complete nightmare to replace. I understand, madam. It's a chore to find a match when accidents happen. Mr. Satterthwaite watched the scene with growing interest over his shoulder. The shopkeeper had said, Mrs. Gilliatt. Of course, he should have guessed. After a moment's hesitation, he rose and took a few steps toward the counter. Forgive me, he said. Are you by any chance Mrs. Gilliatt of Doverton-Kingsburn? Why, yes, I am Beryl Gilliatt. And you are? She knit her brows slightly as she looked him over. An attractive woman, Satterthwaite thought. Intelligent face, perhaps a bit stern, but very capable. This was Simon's second wife, not the ethereal beauty Lily had been, but a handsome, sensible lady nonetheless. Suddenly, her face broke into a warm smile. But of course, you are the guest we're expecting for tea. I recognize you from the photographs. You must be Mr. Satterthwaite. Precisely, he said, bowing slightly. I must apologize for my tardiness. A mechanical failure, I'm afraid. The car is being seen to even as we speak. Oh, what bad luck. But there's no need to apologize. It's still early for tea. We'll just push things back a little. As you heard, I've had my own minor catastrophe with the china this morning. Something always goes wrong when guests are due. Here you are, Mrs. Gilliatt, the shopkeeper interrupted. Shall I box them for you? No, thank you. Just wrap them up. They'll fit perfectly in my bag. If you are heading back now, Satterthwaite offered, I could give you a lift. My car should be ready any moment. That's very kind, but I must return the moped. My boys will be cross if they find it gone. They have plans for this afternoon. Then allow me to introduce my old friend, Satterthwaite said, turning back to the table. Mr. Harley Quin. We met here quite by chance. I was just trying to persuade him to join us. Surely Tom wouldn't mind an extra guest. Not at all, Beryl said graciously. He will be delighted. Perhaps they are already acquainted. No, madam, Mr. Quin said, rising. I have never had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Addison, though I have heard much of him. Then you must come. You'll find our home very welcoming. I am honored, said Mr. Quin, but alas, I have another engagement. In fact, he glanced at his watch, I am already late. I've been quite carried away talking with my old friend. The shopkeeper handed over the parcel. There we are, Mrs. Gilliatt, nice and secure. Beryl Gilliatt tucked the bundle into her bag and turned to Satterthwaite. Well then, until very soon. We won't sit down before 5:15, so don't distress yourself. I'm so glad we finally met. I've heard so much about you from Simon and my father-in-law. With a quick goodbye to Mr. Quin, she hurried out. A moment later, the frantic rattle of a moped faded into the distance. A woman of great energy, Satterthwaite remarked. Indeed, Mr. Quin replied, and I truly cannot persuade you to come. I was merely passing by, said Mr. Quin. Then when shall I see you again? Soon, I think. I trust you will recognize me when the time comes. Wait, you're leaving just like that? Won't you explain anything? Explain what? Why we met today. There is always a reason. Mr. Quin smiled his enigmatic smile. You are an educated man, Mr. Satterthwaite. I think one word will be enough for you to grasp the truth. It may prove useful. What word? Color-blindness, said Mr. Quin. I don't understand. Satterthwaite frowned. I know the term, of course, but I don't see. Goodbye for now, Mr. Quin said, cutting him off. And look, there is your car. Sure enough, the shiny new vehicle pulled up outside the post office. Mr. Satterthwaite stood on the threshold, torn between his duty to his host and his desire to stay. He felt a sudden, sharp pang of melancholy at the thought of parting. Is there truly nothing I can do for you? He asked wistfully. Nothing. Or for any of your acquaintances? I think not. No, Mr. Quin placed a hand briefly on Satterthwaite's shoulder. "I have a very high opinion of you. You see into the heart of things much faster than you realize. Believe me, you haven't changed." With that, he stepped out and walked briskly down the street in the opposite direction of the Addison estate. Satterthwaite climbed into his car. "I hope that's the end of our troubles," he told the chauffeur. "Only 3 or 4 miles to go, sir. The engine is purring now." As the car turned onto the main road, Mr. Satterthwaite whispered the word to himself, "Color-blindness." He didn't understand the connection, but he knew Quin never spoke without purpose. They had talked of it once before, long ago. Doverton-Kingsburn, he murmured. The name felt like a warm embrace. It was the place of his youth, of green lawns and shimmering water. He was going back to see his dear friend Tom Addison. He would enjoy the evening, regardless of who was missing from the table. He would remember the old days. But in the back of his mind, the word continued to itch. Color-blindness. Why color-blindness? Tea under the cedar. Tea was served on the lawn. To one side, a wide stone staircase led down from the French windows toward a sandy, copper-tinted riverbank. To the other, a magnificent Lebanon cedar anchored the afternoon scene. Scattered across the grass were white-painted tables, intricate with carving, surrounded by comfortable garden chairs and loungers. Some were shaded by sun canopies, others left open to the waning light. As evening approached, the grass took on a deep velvety hue. Golden light spilled across the riverbank, and through the tier branches of the cedar, the sky glowed in shades of rose and apricot. Tom Addison awaited his guest, stretched out in a wicker chair. Mr. Satterthwaite noted with a twinge of affection that Tom's feet, puffy as ever, were tucked into cozy horse slippers. But the slippers were odd. One was bright red, the other vivid green. Dear old Tom, Satterthwaite thought. He hasn't changed a bit. And then, like a lightning bolt, a second thought struck him. What a fool I am. Of course, color-blindness. I see exactly what Mr. Quin meant. Why didn't I realize at the moment I saw those slippers? Thought you were never going to get here, you old devil, Tom Addison called out. He was still a handsome man, sturdy, broad-faced, with deep-set gray eyes that sparkled with his trademark kindness and humor. I can't get up to greet you, Tom apologized. It takes 2 strong men and a sturdy stick just to hoist me out of this chair these days. Well, have you met the clan yet? You've run into Simon, I take it? Indeed. It's been years, Simon, but you look much the same. Squadron leader Simon Gilliatt was a lean, striking man with a shock of red hair. A pity you never made it out to Kenya, Simon said. You'd have loved the life there. I thought I'd be buried in that soil, but life has a way of appending your plans. We have a perfectly respectable churchyard right here, Tom interjected. The church hasn't been touched by restorers, so it's quite intact, and there's plenty of room left. None of those ghastly modern headstones, either. What a morbid topic. Beryl Gilliatt said with a laugh. And here are the boys. But you know them, Mr. Satterthwaite, don't you? I'm not sure, Satterthwaite admitted. I haven't seen them since they were children. He remembered them as schoolboys, though they had different parents. They had often been mistaken for brothers, both roughly the same height, both red-headed. Roland took after his father, while Timothy seemingly favored his golden-haired mother. They seemed genuinely fond of one another, yet, as Satterthwaite looked closer, the differences were stark. Roland, despite the red hair, bore no resemblance to his grandfather or even his father. Timothy, however, looked exactly like Lily's son should, the same delicate skin, the high forehead, the fine bone features. I am Inez, a soft, deep voice at his elbow. I doubt you remember me. It has been a lifetime. A stunning girl, Satterthwaite thought, the true Southern type. She had Pilar's carriage, that exquisite, slightly haughty Spanish beauty. Standing behind her was her father, Dr. Horton. The years had silvered him, but he remained the same reliable, unpretentious man Satterthwaite remembered. Mr. Satterthwaite felt a wave of genuine happiness. He was among people who reminded him of everyone he had loved. There was a dark-eyed beauty, the two red-headed youths, and Beryl Gilliatt, busily arranging the Harlequin cups on a tray while calling to maid for sandwiches. The boys pulled out a chair for him between them, and Satterthwaite felt deeply honored. He looked out toward the river. On the far bank, amidst the fields, stood a lone scarecrow with a bird's nest perched atop its head. It looks absurdly like Mr. Harley Quin, he thought. What if that is him? The idea was ridiculous. No one could give a scarecrow the particular, elegant slouch that was Quin's trademark. Admiring the scarecrow, Timothy asked, "We've even given him a name. We call him Mr. Harley Barley." "Good heavens!" Satterthwaite gasped. "How very extraordinary. Is it?" Rowley asked curiously. "Well, he reminds me of an acquaintance of mine, also named Harley." The two young men began to chant in unison, their voices bright against the evening air. "Harley Barley, watch and ward. Keep the thieves from out the yard. Guard the barley, guard the rye, the poison chalice." "Cucumber sandwich, Mr. Satterthwaite?" Beryl asked. "Or perhaps the homemade pâté?" Mr. Satterthwaite chose the pâté. She placed the cup before him in that peculiar tile-red shade he had seen in the shop. The Harlequin set looked charming on the lawn, a kaleidoscope of yellow, red, blue, and green. If they had to choose their favorite colors, Satterthwaite mused, Timothy would surely pick the red and Roland the yellow. Next to Timothy's cup lay a meerschaum pipe, a rarity these days. Roland, noticing his interest, remarked, "Tim brought that back from Germany. He smokes it constantly. He'll have lung cancer before he's 30. And you, Roland, do you not smoke?" "No, I've no taste for it. Neither cigarettes nor tobacco." Inez approached and sat opposite Roland. Both young men instantly leaned forward, offering her plates of food. As the evening deepened, their conversation flowed, and Mr. Satterthwaite felt a glow of reflected youth. He watched them with a practiced eye, convinced that both boys were half in love with Inez. It was only natural. She was a dark-eyed beauty, Roland's cousin, living just a stone's throw away in the doctor's cottage by the gate. He wondered which one she favored, or if her heart belonged to someone else entirely. Having eaten his fill, Satterthwaite turned his chair to take in the whole scene. Mrs. Gilliatt was a whirlwind of fuss and motion. She's devoted, he thought, but her fussing is more exhausting than helpful. She was constantly shifting plates, urging more cake on everyone, and topping up cups with fresh tea. It would be far more pleasant if she just sat still. His gaze drifted to Tom Addison in his lounger. Tom was watching Beryl, too, but his expression was unreadable. He doesn't like her, Satterthwaite realized. Of course. She replaced Lily. Suddenly, he felt Lily's presence with startling intensity, as if his goddaughter were an invisible guest at the table. This is what it means to be old, he told himself. Though, why shouldn't she be here to look at her son? He looked fondly at Timothy, then corrected himself. Roland was Lily's son. Timothy was Beryl's. Lily knows I'm here. She's trying to tell me something. He thought wildly. Good heavens, I'm becoming a senile old fool. He glanced back at the scarecrow. In the shifting sunset light, the Harley Barley figure looked less like a bundle of rags and more like Mr. Quin. A black dog, a ringer for Hermes, was prowling the field for crows. It's all in the light and the color, Satterthwaite realized. Why am I here? What am I meant to do? A sense of impending disaster settled over him. Beryl Gilliatt was visibly on edge, her movements jerky, as if she were about to snap. Was it because of Tom? Tom was happy. He had his home, his family, and an heir in Roland. Would Tom approve of Roland and Inez marrying? Or did he fear the blood was already too close? I must prevent it, Satterthwaite thought. Prevent what? Everyone is just drinking tea. He looked at the white meerschaum pipe resting by a red cup. Beryl whispered something to Timothy. He nodded and headed toward the house. Beryl cleared the empty plates, straightened the chairs, and suggested Roland fetch some ice cream for Dr. Horton. Satterthwaite's eyes were locked on Beryl. As she moved past the table, Her sleeve caught the red cup. It fell, shattering against the metal leg of a garden chair. She gasped, knelt to gather the shards, and quickly replaced it with a blue cup and saucer from the tray. She moved the meerschaum pipe next to the blue cup, filled it with tea, and stepped back. The table was momentarily deserted. Inez was talking to her grandfather. "I don't understand," Satterthwaite agonized. "Something is happening." "But what?" Timothy returned, his red hair gleaming like Simon's. He hesitated at the table, then moved toward the chair where his pipe lay, next to the blue cup. Inez came back and laughed. "Timothy, you've got the wrong cup. The blue one is mine. Yours is the red one." "Don't be silly, Inez. I know my own cup. You take yours without sugar. Mine is sweet. Besides, here's my pipe. This is my place." A bolt of pure terror shot through Mr. Satterthwaite. His mind raced back to the teething car, the mismatched slippers, and Mr. Quinn's final word, color-blindness. He scrambled to his feet. As Timothy raised the blue cup to his lips, Satterthwaite found his voice and screamed, "Don't drink. Put it down. Don't drink that." Timothy froze, his face a mask of bewilderment. Dr. Horton rushed over, looking alarmed. "What is it, Mr. Satterthwaite? What's wrong?" "The cup," Satterthwaite gasped, his finger trembling as he pointed at the blue porcelain. "Something is wrong with that cup. Do not let the boy drink from it. The genetic trap." Dr. Horton stared at the cup. "But, my dear man—" "I know what I'm saying," Mr. Satterthwaite pressed, his voice low and urgent. He was using a red cup. It broke. He was given this blue one to replace it. And he can't tell the difference between red and blue, can he? Dr. Horton looked puzzled. "Are you suggesting that he is like Tom?" "Exactly like Tom. Tom is colorblind. Everyone knows it. Look at his slippers today. He can't tell red from green. And neither can this young man." "But that's impossible," the doctor stammered. Roland sees colors perfectly. A bit strange, isn't it?" Satterthwaite said, "I believe the term is colorblindness. It's a sex-linked trait. While women rarely suffer from it themselves, they're the ones who pass it on. Lily saw colors perfectly, but her son was almost certain to inherit the deficiency from his grandfather. But Satterthwaite, Timothy is Beryl's son, not Lily's. Roland is Lily's boy. I know they look alike, the height, the hair. Perhaps you've simply confused them." "No," Satterthwaite insisted. "I haven't confused a thing. I see the truth now. Roland is Beryl's son. When Simon married again, the boys were mere infants. For a woman left in charge of 2 babies, it was a simple matter to swap them, especially with both being red-headed. Timothy is Lily's son. Roland belongs to Beryl and her first husband, Christopher Eden. Where else would the boy have inherited color-blindness? It's the only explanation." Dr. Horton turned to look at Timothy, who was still standing by the table, bewildered, holding the blue cup. "I saw her buying those cups today," Satterthwaite continued. "Listen to me, Doctor. We've known each other for years. You know that when I insist on something, I am right. That is true. I can't recall you ever being wrong. Take that cup from him," Satterthwaite commanded. "Test it. Have a chemist analyze the contents. I watched Beryl Gilliatt buy that specific set in the village. She knew the red cup would accidentally break. She knew she would replace it with a blue one, and she knew Timothy wouldn't notice the change. It sounds like madness, Satterthwaite, but very well. I will do as you ask." The doctor walked to the table. "Let me see that cup for a moment, lad," he said to Timothy. "Certainly, sir," Timothy replied, looking confused. "I think there's a hairline crack here. Let me take a look." Beryl Gilliatt appeared on the lawn, walking rapidly toward them. "What are you doing? What's happening?" "Nothing at all," Dr. Horton said airily. "I merely want to show the boys a little experiment with a cup of tea." He looked her full in the face and saw the flash of fear, followed by cold terror. Satterthwaite saw it too. "Will you join us, Satterthwaite? Let's test this new porcelain. They use a new firing method these days, I hear." They moved toward the house in a small procession. the doctor first, then Satterthwaite, with Roland and Timothy trailing behind. "What's the doc up to, do you think?" Timothy whispered. "No idea," Roland replied. "He's probably got some new scientific bee in his bonnet. We'll find out later. Let's go for a ride on the bikes instead." Beryl Gilliatt stopped dead in her tracks. She turned and began to walk quickly toward the house. Tom called out from his chair. "Is something wrong, Beryl?" "I just remembered something I have to do." "That's all," she snapped. Tom looked at Simon. "Is your wife all right?" "Beryl? As far as I know. Probably just remembered some household trifle." "Do you need help, Beryl?" he called. No. I'll be back in a moment." She turned her head toward Tom, adding with a sudden, sharp edge to her voice, "You old fool, you've put on different slippers again. Can't you see one is red and the other green? Did I mix them up again?" Tom chuckled. "They look exactly the same to me. My dear, strange, but there it is." Beryl quickened her pace and vanished into the house. As Satterthwaite and Dr. Horton reached the gatehouse, a bicycle sped past them. "She's gone," Dr. Horton said. "Fled. Because of this. Perhaps we should have stopped her. Do you think she'll come back?" "I don't think so," Satterthwaite mused. "And perhaps that is for the best." "What do you mean?" "Doverton is an old house with an old name. A good name. It doesn't need a scandal. If the truth came out, the scandal would be enormous. Better to let her go." "Tom never liked her," Horton noted. "Never. He was polite, but he felt it. And we must think of the boy," Satterthwaite added. "The boy? You mean—" "Roland. He shouldn't have to know what his mother intended to do. But why did she do it? Why? Do you still doubt it?" Satterthwaite asked. "No, not after seeing her face. But the motive—" "Greed," Satterthwaite said simply. "She has no money of her own. Her first husband likely left her nothing. But Tom Addison's grandson stands to inherit a fortune. This estate, the money, it's a vast inheritance. She wanted all for her son, and by extension for herself. She is a desperate, greedy woman." Satterthwaite suddenly looked back toward the fields. "Something is burning," he said. "Good heavens, so it is—" "Ah, it's just a scarecrow. The boys must have set it alight. Nothing to worry about, no barns nearby. It'll just burn itself out." "Yes," Satterthwaite said, watching the flames consume the figure of Harley Barley. "It will burn itself out. Well, Doctor, I'll leave you to it. You won't be needing my help any further. The farewell of the Harlequin. I already know what I shall find," Dr. Horton murmured. "I have no doubt now. That blue cup holds a deadly draught." Mr. Satterthwaite stepped back through the gates. He walked down toward the river, where the scarecrow blazed like a beacon on the opposite bank. Beyond it, the sunset was a masterpiece of fire, staining half the sky in hues of blood and gold. "So, that is your path," Satterthwaite whispered. He shivered as a silhouette emerged from the flickering orange light, a tall, slender woman in a shimmering, pearlescent dress. She moved toward him, and Satterthwaite froze, unable to look away. "Lily," he breathed. "Lily." He saw her clearly now. Though she was far off, he knew the tilt of her head, the grace of her step, for a fleeting second. He wondered if the others could see her, or if she was a vision granted only to him. "It's all right, Lily," he whispered into the wind. "Your son is safe now." The figure stopped. She raised a hand to her lips, and though he couldn't see her face, he felt her smile. She blew him a kiss, a delicate, ethereal gesture, then turned and walked back toward the field where the scarecrow was crumbling into ash. She is leaving again, Satterthwaite thought, going back with him. They belonged to that other world, appearing only when summoned by love or death. He didn't know if he would ever see Lily again, but he counted on meeting Mr. Harley Quin many more times. He turned back toward the tea table and his old friend Tom Addison. Beryl would not return. The darkness over Doverton-Kingsburn had lifted. Suddenly, a black dog bounded onto the lawn. Wagging its tail, it skidded to a halt before him. Tucked into its collar was a small, rolled scrap of paper. Satterthwaite unfurled it to find a message written in multicolored ink. "Congratulations. Until we meet again. HQ. Thank you, Hermes." Satterthwaite called out as the dog raced away to join two dark figures silhouetted against a dying sun before they vanished into the dusk.